I love the hustle.
What's up, everybody? This is William from Before the Billions. Today, we are going to have the first ever Black Man in Tech video on the channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today, I have a special guest. Shout out to Maximillion Polhill, a software developer, young software developer out there in Arizona. So please go ahead and support him. I'm about to go ahead and bring him up right now. So let's move into the topic of discussion today. So I had made a statement a while back when I was talking to another developer about the amount of years of experience it takes to be able to be a senior or to be considered a senior developer, a software developer at that. And I said around 5 to 6 years, right? And Max, you disagree with me when I said this, so I just wanted to,
right, yeah,
I just wanted to say, let's go ahead and we go ahead and talk about the reasons why I say, 5+ years to be a software developer, senior software developer, and then we go through some reasons why you think that, and then we'll go through an article really quickly. Okay?
okay, sounds good.
All right, perfect. So I'll go ahead and, since you're the special guest, I'll go ahead and let you go first.
Okay, sure. So yeah, the reason why I disagreed with when you say a senior software engineer should have 5 to 6 years of experience. Now, just from I think once you get into, especially like in these companies in these tech hubs, like the Bay Area, Seattle, just some I think New York would be considered a tech hub as well.
Yeah.
You know, these kind of companies, these kind of like tech companies that are tech focused. And when I say tech companies, I say tech companies that where most of their profit is from the technology, unlike say like a defense contractor. They might look at you as almost like a call center sometimes if you're working like, I don't know, like in the IT or the business side.
Mm-hmm.
But so these tech companies where the engineers are making the company, millions, sometimes billions of dollars, it's they're really focusing on the merit of an engineer and not so much their years of experience. And so when we say senior software engineer, from my scene, of course, you might not have 0 years of experience coming into a company saying like, "Hey, I'm senior," but I do think after once you get like maybe at least 2 years of experience, I feel like if you have the merit to really excel in the interview and show them that you are a senior, I think you do have a shot at being a senior developer. At least definitely before 5 years, I think. I think around 3 to 4 years, I definitely think a software developer should really consider why are they not considered senior in their company, or if they were to switch jobs, why are they not applying to these senior roles? That's what I would consider, and 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 it's kind of weird because in software engineering, these titles, especially when you get into like junior, senior, senior is not even the most highest title at most companies. Of course, there's like a lot of companies have staff after senior, and then they have like principal engineer. But it all depends on the company. Like all these companies have different criteria of what they consider to be senior, and it kind of makes sense because you might be a senior at one company, but then say you go to Google and Google's looking at you like, yeah, for what we're doing, you're more of a junior, which happens all the time. A lot of senior developers who might have 10 years experience, they call it down leveling when they get an offer from Google, but based on their interview, how they perform in the interview, Google says, you know what, you're more of like a mid-level junior. I know you're senior over that company, but at Google, that's not. We have stronger criteria for engineers.
Yeah, so them leak code questions are going to come in handy.
for
Those
sure.
lead
Yeah,
code questions, man. The hacker
yeah.
rank questions.
They'll get you.
The cracking the coding interview by Gail Locke McDowell. Yeah, most
Yes, shout out
definitely.
to that book. Great book.
Yeah, man, it's a fantastic book, man. So let me go into my reasons why I say it's gonna take around 5+ years, right?
Okay.
Not saying that it's a oh, you know what, this is the end all be all. Of course, you have people who do progress to senior developer earlier than that. But
Right.
when I said that, I'm talking about maybe the average person, right?
Mm.
And without all the contradiction, not contradictions, but all the filtering out that you have to do. Because even
Right.
your example, you said when you're talking about specifically like tech companies like a
Mm.
Google or like these companies that are in New York or Seattle, whatever it is, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, with that being said, for the average person, right? I'm more so saying 5+ years, so that way they can
Mm.
kind of know what to expect. Not to say
Mm.
like, oh, you know what, everybody can be a senior developer within 3 years of experience, because that would be
Right.
just a little bit too much to expect. Like if I gave the expectation, oh, 2 years in, you can become a senior developer, or 3 years in, and then when they don't become one, or that their company says, hey, you haven't worked here long enough, or whatever it is, then I don't want them to get that expectation, especially since I had been, this is my experience too. So
Mm.
since I had experienced that same thing where I was trying to go on full time, and I was trying to go on as a senior and
You
stuff like
started
that.
contractor, right?
Yeah, I started as a contractor,
Mm.
and that was the way that I could just get a job. So
Right.
that's what was hard, because it was harder to become full time for me, at least, than it was to go full time, but to go a contract position.
Mm.
So as a contractor, there was no progression in your title, right? At least not in my experience. They had the
Yeah.
progression in your title when you went on full time, and
Mm.
those for the companies that I worked for. Now, of course, some of this is just anecdotal evidence,
Mm.
but with that, when I look at the job descriptions for senior level developers, you will see that they are heading towards the 5+ year range, right? I have
Sure.
seen some that's maybe 4, right? But
Mm.
usually I see plus 5+, especially since, when I'm applying to jobs, or when I'm going on Indeed, Dice.com, LinkedIn, all these different job boards. Monster.com is another one. I see the same trend, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just seeing it so often. And one thing that I can tell you is that just because it's in the job description does not necessarily mean that you have to hit every single check mark. It doesn't have to see every single
Exactly.
checkbox, but it's a rule of thumb to kind of get close to what's on the job description. So that's why I tell people, like, hey, you know what? You have a better chance of getting to that title with at least around this much of experience, right? I'm not going to say it's going to take 10 years and nothing like that. You don't have to be a veteran to be senior. But yeah, this is the reason why I say 5+ years, because of what I've seen as the trend, my own experience, and what of course, since I've spoken to people and I've tried to go full time and go senior level, this is what they have told me as well, right?
Yeah.
It's especially if you're a contractor, man. I mean, like when I was a contractor, they told me, "Oh yeah, this man has been a contractor for over 10 years," and I was thinking, like, "Dang, man, that's a long time to be a contractor." So
It is. Yeah.
it
Hope
is,
he's getting
but
paid well.
yeah, he probably is. Probably is getting paid well, but But yeah,
Yeah.
so let me go ahead and did you want to say anything to what I was saying, or you want to go ahead on and move to the article?
No, I'll definitely see your perspective for sure. Because especially if you're talking about average people. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm talking from a mindset of like trying to be the outlier and always seeing potential to move on up ahead of what is average, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I definitely see what you said, especially what you said about like making sure people have the proper expectations. I think that's fair.
Yes. And oh, also, and another thing that I wanted to point out is that when it came to, uh, talking about the average person, I
Hmm.
wanted to also then highlight as well is that we're also talking about the average company as well, right?
Okay.
So not
Okay, I'll
just
keep
the
that in mind.
yeah,
Yep.
not just the tech hubs, but also you have the finance industry, you have people who are in all these other industries, the fintech companies, all this other kind of stuff. They all
Sure.
perform differently than just the tech companies as well. So
Hmm.
even the
Got it.
automotive industry, stuff like that. So yeah, everybody does everything differently, but you know, yeah. Let's move on to the article. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So can you see it still?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, perfect. So I am about to go through it. So I just looked this up real quick. This is called DEPT agency or
Hmm.
department agency. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before, but I just looked this up really quickly for to see what would be classified as a senior. So it says a junior versus mid versus senior software engineers, experience, skills, and expectations. All right. So what we're trying to do is to set the expectations for what you may experience within the tech industry. Okay.
Right.
All right. So this is written by Kelsey Anderson, senior content marketing manager. All right, in Denver. So let me go ahead and zoom in. Oh, I love how responsive this website is. You see this? Everything stayed
That's
the
nice.
same. That's nice, man.
Responsive web design. I see it.
Yeah, man. A senior developer wrote this. All right, so let's go ahead. All right, so it says when thinking about hiring additional engineering resources, you might ask yourself, do I need a junior, mid level, or senior software engineer? However, what you should also be asking is, do I need an individual contributor, solutions architect, or manager? Together,
Mhm.
these two questions will help you create a job description, interview qualified candidates, and hire the right individual for your technology goals. Below, we'll compare both seniority and impact, giving you a better understanding of the differences between juniors, mids, seniors, contributors, architects, and managers. Whew, that's a lot of titles. So let's dig in. All right, so it says generally speaking, here are the differences between junior, mid, and senior engineers. A junior developer usually has 1 to 3 years of development experience. They should be proficient in one or two languages, frameworks, and have dabbled in a few other languages, right? Also, I'm assuming that they are also saying 1 to 3 years of development experience, including internships. Right? I'm only assuming this. It doesn't say it, but uh, I know that whenever I put my experience on my resume, I definitely include my internship experience. All right, so it says a mid-level engineer should have 3 to 5 years of experience or a bachelor's in computer science with a year or two of experience. Okay, so that's mid-level. So when you have a bachelor's in computer science or any related field, then you also have the 2 years of experience. So you kind of get a little bit further ahead with the bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Not saying that you can't become a mid level without a bachelor's degree. Of course you can, but it may take you a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
So as you can see, 2 years of experience. So it shaved off a year of experience as opposed to the person who may not have that bachelor's degree. So it says
That's interesting.
at this point, they should have mastered 2 to 3 languages, frameworks, frameworks. At this company, we expect our mid-level engineers to have full stack experience, back end, front end, and databases. That's a lot. That's a lot of information to know, right? So, also, I want to ask you this, Maximillion. So, would you consider yourself a full stack developer?
Yeah, I consider myself full stack. My past two titles at companies have been full stack as well.
Okay, so you're familiar with JavaScript, CSS, HTML. In addition to that, SQL and another backend language. Maybe it's I think you use Go. Is that it?
Yeah. So of course, like the front end is just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can know like the React frameworks. So that's another React is another front end framework. And then for backend, I write a lot of Python, Go, and like Node.js, which is sort of like JavaScript on the backend. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then databases, I just know like Postgres SQL and some like I've done like some Mongo, but not that at work though. I haven't done it on a job yet.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's see. So it says a senior engineer should have 5+ years of experience and be proficient in any modern language. Now that's a big statement right there. It says a senior engineer should have 5+ years of experience and be proficient in any modern language. Right? When you know one language, you should be able to transition to other ones. And that's
Yeah,
you have to be able to understand a language. Is all you need to know is you need to learn the syntax of a specific language, right? You should have the
right.
logic, down pat, but the syntax is the only thing that you should really need to learn if you're trying to learn a new language, right? So it says, or be able to quickly jump into anything new. You need to be able to
Yeah, I
hit the
prefer.
ground running.
Yeah, I prefer that statement. Um, because I mean, obviously, nobody's going to be an expert at every language, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's a good expectation. Like, especially when you have 5 years experience, you should be able to. You should have your fundamentals down where you can, like you said, like how like how the algorithm works, but it's just a matter of expressing that in the language of your choice. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. So let's see. They should also have great communication, technical project management, and architecting skills. Now, I wonder, where do you get architecting skills from? Right. So that means you have to take on other projects as well and be able to pretty much own them at that point. So let's
Right.
see.
And
Hmm?
yeah, that's a good question. Like, where do you get those from, especially when you're coming from middle to senior? And I would get I think the only way you would get those is just being on the job and like, taking on more responsibility than what's expected of you. It's like really getting into like those new projects that aren't really like that haven't really been set up yet. Give the opportunity to be in those like design meetings with like your manager, the higher levels who usually do that stuff. That's what I try to do. I try to be involved in those design meetings with my managers so I can kind of um, sort of see how they're like architecting the new systems and doing their system design and things like that.
Yeah, most definitely. So, as C says, beyond these standard experiences, it's also important to define skills and expectations within your organization. So, at this company, they use time scope of accountability. On average, how long are they working on a task? For juniors, this might be a few days. For seniors, many months. The complexity of scope. How difficult is their work? And what does it require? Communication again. says, what are the expectations surrounding communication, expertise? Generally speaking, how much do they know? Leadership. Who are they in charge of? For both juniors and mids, it's probably just themselves. Now that's a great point. Yeah, when you are a junior level developer and a mid-level developer, you're not really leading others. You may find yourself in a situation where you may lead in a particular project, right? Or you may have a task and you're leading yourself. You may be the only person, or you may work with a more senior developer to help you with this task. But this is pretty true, right? You may just be leading yourself, or be taking guidance from another person. So then it says oversight, which is the guidance. Oversight says, what kind of oversight do they need? This can range from daily check-ins to as needed. So setting up all those meetings. All right, so I think that this is a good place to stop with the article. I think that we have determined how long it would take for you to be considered a senior level developer. So, Max, overall, what did you think about the article so far? You know, we didn't read the whole thing, but
yeah. One thing about it is that, you know, it's pretty standard for, like you said, for the average person at the average company. You know, I'm still think 5 years is a bit much. Like, I want to like put that in like 3 or 4 years, especially if they have a degree. But yeah, I think overall the article touched on some key things, especially when it talks about, you know, a senior developer might have a lot more leadership, but definitely more than like a mid or junior. Like a mid and junior is probably not going to have like any not much like leadership experience. One thing I would kind of wish the article would mention a bit more is just that I think a senior developer, you know, right, they might, not only will they like manage people, they might be a manager, or like they might lead like a certain team, but I think they will also have like a lot of influence on the team, more so than, of course, like the junior and the mid-level developers. So I think, you know, whoever is the director or the staff of that team, I think they'll, you know, obviously be, you know, be more responsive to a senior developer's authority and influence on a project, as far like tech wise, you know. And I also think like a senior developer will also, I think they'll be really good at prioritizing like their tasks, and especially if they happen to have some leadership in the team, they'll be good at prioritizing work for other people on the team, for like the juniors and the mid-level developers. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to add to that article.
Yeah, man. Well, that's perfect, bro. That's perfect. So really do appreciate you for coming up, man. You know, thank you as well for being the first guest on the Black Man in Tech. Do you have any place that you want to, you know, push out so that way people can support you?
Sure. I'm on. You can check out some of the code I have on GitHub. So my GitHub alias is XODENE. So I push a lot of code up there on GitHub every once in a while. So if you want to check out some of my open source projects, you can go there. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I can send you the link after this.
Sounds good.
Put in the description or something.
Yeah, man. All right, perfect. Maximillion Polhill, thank you so much for being the first guest on Black Men in Tech. Let me go ahead and give you the #1 spot.
Thanks for having me. Black Men in Tech. Love it.
All right, perfect, man. Thank you so much.